All right. Greetings. Welcome to Terra Prime Live. We are back. We are going to be doing more regular shows here. Back on the Hangouts for the time being. We've got some shows lined up for the summer, and so we're coming to you here with our panel, mostly made up of apprentices. So. We'll go through here. But we've got one of our knights, Anthony Iglesias. He's joining us from Syracuse, New York, and we'll be talking to him a little bit about all the stuff that's going on with him. And we lost one. Maybe we'll get him back here in a second. Okay. Yes, next to him, we've got Francois Gmellion and Michael Gerstel from Germany and France, respectively. Or, well, not respectively, I screwed that word up. But Francois is from France and Michael's from Germany. Everybody knows Michael. He's been on the show many times. And one of our long-term apprentices here. Hopefully, we'll be getting... I think it was Ben back.
Yes.
So we'll see there. Anyway, so yes, we are back. We are planning some more shows and getting things rolling again. So this episode, we're just going to be kind of introducing what's been going on thus so far and what we plan to kind of do for the summer. Big news, we've in the interim, since we've kind of like backed off of the live shows, lots has happened. We've got, obviously a lot of the movies have been coming out and all that, and we've been building up our ranks. We've got a lot of some new teachers, Anthony among them, and things going around, not just here in the United States, but across the seas in France, which we will talk about here in a little bit. We are going to be appearing in different places. If you're in Michigan, we'll be appearing at Maker Faire, July 29th and 30th, Saturday and Sunday at the Henry Ford Museum at Greenfield Village. So if you're in the area, come check us out there. I'm sure we've got lots of other cons that are coming up and events, but this summer, that's kind of the biggest one over to us. The shows that we're going to be doing, we're going to be planning them, so send us anything that you any topics that you'd like, even if you comment here as you're watching, we should be able to get them. Other than that, I think we can get started going through things. So, as some of you may know, if you've been following us long enough, we have, there he is, Ben Judkins. How you doing? Another one of our...
Great, how are you?
People from Syracuse. So, anyway, if you've been following us for any length of time on Facebook or all that, you'll probably remember that we have a achievement system in place where if people want to come kind of be a bigger part of what we do, we have all of our material kind of laid out into a system where people can go through it and everything. We laid that out. We've got people going through it right now. Right here on the panel, Anthony, he is the first one to kind of go through the entire thing and make it onto the other side as an instructor. So that's one of the big news is we have somebody go all through there, and as such, his school in Syracuse, New York, is now one of our, I suppose, member schools of Tpla. So if you want to check out our system in real life, there's something to go. So I will kind of turn it over here to Anthony, and why don't you give us a little overview of what you guys are doing over there? And I know that you've had an event recently, as have they have in France. So why don't you tell us what's going on over in Syracuse?
Oh boy, a lot. We're preparing for a bunch of events at various cosplay and charitable events. We call ourselves a dual. So we focus on the martial aspects of what we do, you know, of lightsaber combat. And we, of course, love to dress up in cosplay and go entertain, you know, people who enjoy that kind of thing. It's a lot of fun. If you haven't done it, do it. That's what I tell everybody. Yeah, we had our second tournament. First one was May 6th, 2016. And it went over very well. And now we have this new one that we just did. We just finished last month, May 6th of 2017. It was great. In fact, we have this year's champion with us. Ben actually was our champion this year. He used twin sabers, and he was actually using traditional kung fu in his dueling, and he did very well. We had a lot of cosplayers there and little kids and the news and all. That's a great way of getting people that normally wouldn't be very active because maybe traditional martial arts is intimidating, you know? So lightsaber combat and cosplay is a way to get people out and moving around and socializing. It's a wonderful thing. And they're really loving, you know, the material. So I guess that's, if I missed anything, tell me.
Right.
That's pretty much it, yeah.
Very cool, very cool. All right. So why don't we move over to Francois, and can you tell us a little bit more about what's going on over there in France?
I will try. Michael can help me because his English is better than mine. Cedric developed a lot Tpla in France, and I try to help him. In May, we organize a big event, a big show about lightsaber, not only sporting dueling, but also technical things, more martial arts, and also choreographics. I don't know if I use the good words. Cedric, how I can say, Michael, we have a game side in the event with cosplay on many board games related to Star Wars universe.
Yes, and we should probably point out that Cedric is you're filling in for your teacher, right? Right now, so we're kind of we're catching you off guard, so we apologize for that. Michael was at the event, this big event, and we posted a video on the channel about that was made by you guys of that event, and like you said, there's cosplay, role-playing games, saber combat dueling, of course, but forms, Dulan, all of that. Michael, I know you were one of kind of officiating there too, because you were of the senior kind of member there. What was the event like over
there? Well, it was fantastic on so many levels. It's first of all, it was the first European thing where Tpla was involved that I know of. So Tpla really got a base there now in France with Cedric's lightsaber schools, and he is very, very efficient in putting the system to work there. And so it was just, the first thing was just that it was great to have us apprentices meeting up in Europe. So that was fantastic. And the event itself, it was a big thing with all the cosplay and but the very interesting stuff was the competitions. So they were technical competitions based on the Tpla system. I think most of our viewers have seen one or two of our Dulons, especially the Shichu Dulon. And this exact Dulon was part of the technical competition. So there were 12, 13 people doing this Dulon, and that was just so great to see. Something gets real there from the internet.
Yes.
You get a certain perspective, but to see it live, to see children doing it, with such joy, it is just it was just so fantastic. And
I mean, as somebody who kind of like put this together, to see that happening, overseas, and to see all those kids doing that form and all that, which
yes,
cobbled
exactly,
together from different things. This is,
exactly,
yeah.
And the combats, there were also combat competitions in certain setups, and that too, it was very sophisticated. The rule set was very sophisticated, and it was a real. So the people that came to watch, they really got an impression of the potential of this whole lightsaber combat stuff, where most people think, oh, it is all fleshy and nothing behind, but there they saw, well, that this is really a competitive action. So they really got the feeling for that. You saw it on their faces. They were surprised. They were eager to learn, to see something more. It was possible to test yourself, to get a little play. So it was for the lightsaber community, especially for the Tpla system, it was just a very, very important event with so much fun and so much expertise behind. That's
I mean, I definitely want to have more larger events. I'd like to have one here, I mean, in the home turf and all that, but we'll keep working towards that. Nero is joining us. Hello.
Hey, how's it going, guys?
Today. Yes, that's okay. So I know we've got some stuff to check in with him on as well. Now, I think recently some of the content, it's coming out a little slower because I'm getting used to putting more kind of production into things. And so I do apologize on that point. But as you can see, we're trying to get into more kind of varied content and that kind of thing. So the Sword Lab videos, hopefully, we put out the last one for the John Madao response to Metatron. I've got a couple of other responses kind of in the pipeline because people start bringing up Chinese weapons. That's kind of my thing. So there we go. And also we have Ben over here, who probably also feels me on that front.
Absolutely, I love that stuff.
So if you don't, to give Ben here a little plug, he is the author of the creation of Wing Chun here, which martial arts historian or researcher looking into the ethnographic aspect of all of this kind of stuff. I'm in the midst of translating a bunch of stuff too, so that's where a lot of the Sword Lab stuff is going to be coming from. But yeah, so hopefully we'll get into more of that. I don't know, Ben. I mean, I'm sure we've got topics that we can talk about here.
Well, absolutely. I was actually just looking at some of your translations of the Wubishi last night, and yeah, that's fantastic. I think anyone doing Seicho would really benefit from, taking a look at some of that stuff and those stances, and you could work a lot of that material into Seicho quite easily.
Yeah, actually, there already is a fair amount of it in there.
Yeah.
So yeah, cool. But like we were talking, I don't know if you were, I can't remember if you were present for when we were talking about this. We were talking about the butterfly knives and then the Wing Chun. What's the name of it again?
The Hudiada, the butterfly swords from southern China.
The other ones, Anthony.
We were talking about the Wing Chun Bajamdo, the difference between the butterfly swords and the Bajamdo and how they are not the same. That was basically the mini conversation we were having.
Yes. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, we're mentioning that. So then, we're talking about, we bring up these traditional weapons and stuff like that, obviously, because of where training lies, but also this is the stuff that we're applying here. So, we mentioned that Ben had applied stuff in the tournament in Syracuse, and that's probably, I mean, elucidate us on that, talk on that one.
Yeah, that was very exciting. I mean, not only was I applying stuff from Wing Chun in the tournament, but, Ronnie, who did extremely well, who I was fighting at the end a surprising number of times, actually.
You mean Montel?
Oh, Montel, yeah.
Montel.
Sorry, Montel. Montel's applying, his own traditional martial arts system. He's in there, he's doing Kale, and so we actually had two guys using dual blades, but coming at it from a very different set of kind of cultural and martial traditions. And it was just an absolutely fascinating experience. It was beyond a competition, it was just a fantastic training opportunity.
Yeah. Yeah. And that's one of the things that we do want to stress. And this is why we strap on the gear and we spar and we fight, because that's really where this stuff comes in. And if you never fight, if you never go up against an opponent who is uncooperative and who has their vested interest is to defeat you, is to make you fail, right? And if you never feel that dynamic, you're never, obviously you're never going to feel that dynamic. And thus, since that is so much of the fight,
yes,
we stress it. Now, we do this in a variety of different ways. And we can talk about this in context, what we're talking about now, between the French and the New York tournaments, because I had a workshop yesterday where we were experimenting with different rule sets. Now, the rule sets that probably Anthony and I use are very similar because we're coming from kind of similar backgrounds and kind of feelings. So what we were doing yesterday was experimenting with the kind of French system, or pieces of it, and specifically, and this is something that Nero, you're going to be able to talk on a lot, because this was the first time I really played with this, and that is the concept of right of way, and that attacks have to be preceded by something, and somebody, the other person is committed to defend that attack before taking advantage of a riposte or something like that. And I never played that kind of game, and I know Nero, that's a foil rule?
It's present in both foil and saber, but
Okay.
it's actually most people don't really realize. They think of it as kind of a making it more of a sport, more of a game, which it essentially does, but it was originally intended to be more of a training method, to try to train better technique for epee, the main weapon, which was just dueling essentially. And epee doesn't really have any right of way. It's just kind of a free for all. Whoever hits first. So foil being the training weapon, they developed systems of right of way to try to emphasize certain actions. So for instance, one of the big ways one of the big things in the right of way is extending the arm. It's kind of threatening the target, which is just a good tactical thing to do in general. Threatening the target forces them to react in a certain way. So that is one way to get right of way, is essentially it's complicated, but essentially it relies on the arm motion and who threatens first. And it's supposed to be there to try to get you to understand those concepts.
Right. And we were discussing it, and it's basically, and I think most of these rule sets, they're all there to kind of jump over one common hurdle, which is the double hit, right? Is the people who you get into a situation where people are just kind of attacking each other and not worrying about covering their line, worrying about the other person's weapon. They're just going for the hit, and then bang, 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 double hit, double hit, double hit. And that obviously becomes, not fun, right?
It's not. It kind of like makes it more frustrating and more repetitive, and that's why they usually create rules like that to get around that kind of thing. I've never seen one rule that's the absolute best way to do it, because you always take away from the reality of combat. If you really wanted to do it realistically, Ed and I tend to spar, and we try not to limit ourselves too much, but we end up in these situations where, all right, we're both dead. All right, we're both dead. Well, you're dead, but I'm horribly maimed. Like I'm probably going to die. And it's kind of sometimes what happens in combat. So it's a question of weighing, realism versus, competition as far as making it effective for a competition atmosphere.
Now, I will say, and I had talked to Cedric about this, and you guys, and Francois, you can chime in on this as well. But the idea being that, first of all, you are encouraging and rewarding and punishing not doing defense, right? Because as I just said, it's one of the biggest problems in sword play is you get into those patterns where it's just bang, bang, nobody cares, and like in reality, trading a hit may be fine, right? That may be what you have to do to get out of the situation. You may sacrifice this arm for, a killing blow to the neck or something. But that's not the situation we're in. So I know that's one reason, but another reason is to create more of a spectacle too. So that there is more interplay between people, and you discourage the just kind of, the mosquito fights where it's just
They continually change rules in fencing too to try to do that, to try to make it, and not just for the spectators, but the fact that you have a referee there, and they're never perfect. There's always the best refs in the world. Somebody's going to argue some call because they're making a judgment call, and it's what they saw, and that's subjective. And they might have missed something subtle. There's so many little things in fencing, And Saber, for instance, they just changed a rule, tested out a new rule, changing the distance where they start, hoping to prevent so many of the simultaneous actions, because Saber is very aggressive. The way it just kind of is set up, the offense is highly prioritized, essentially. It's just kind of is a better position to be in. Foil's a little bit more balanced, but so in Saber, you see a lot of da-da-da-da-da, da da da, just like you said, just the simultaneous hits, and they're always trying to shift. It's like that, kind of it's like balancing a game when they try to balance, different aspects of a video game or something like that. You want to make sure it's playable for everyone and fun for everyone. And if it gets repetitive, if it, so you always have to tweak the rules to try to find that best spot where you're not getting this kind of behavior. So.
Yeah. Do you want to add anything, Francois, to that, or?
Yes.
When you get a chance.
Anthony, you can go first if you want.
You sure? Okay. I actually did a video about this a few months ago, I think, talking about what I feel is a lack of realism in the way some people spar when it comes to weaponry. And the point that I made was that these are edged weapons, and you're not going to stand toe to toe and just bash each other with edged weapons because, Dan Asano said in a knife fight, one goes to the morgue, one goes to the hospital, and sometimes both go to the morgue, So I think you really have to, when you're, dueling with somebody, it's like, you said, oh, I killed you, but I'm mortally wounded, that kind of thing. I think that's a very important thing so that you train better technique, both offensively and defensively. And what I really don't like is there was a video I'm sure you guys saw where it was Kendo versus Kali, if you remember that video. And they were wearing tons of armor. And the very first strike in that duel was basically the Kali guy getting decapitated. But it didn't phase him because they had all this armor and he just charged in and grabbed the, what is it called, the shinai, and just started whacking the Kendo guy over and over again. That is a lack of realism. That is a lack of understanding of what Kendo and Kali actually are. So I think we owe it to the community as instructors and so on to push the realism of what we're really doing.
Yeah. Now, that being said, and I'll turn over here to Francois about that. When we go into competition, as Nero said, you have to give up some realism. So when we're talking about realism in that sense, we're talking in your practice when you spar, all of that kind of thing. We're going to put out a whole bunch of different games and rule sets so that you can kind of practice these different rule sets, which all deal with the same problem in a slightly different way. Anyway, as far as the system that you guys used, Francois, do you have anything to add?
Yes. First of all, we make a difference between real combat and sporting,
right?
Because it is exactly what you said. When we train people, we explain we can do this in a real fight, but in sporting we make another things because we have rules to respect. And okay, it's not a real fight, so we have convention. And for us, we try to make visible for the public to understand what we understand the combat. You need to arm your strike, and if your opponent hits you when you are arming, it is a technical fault. He needs to defend himself before counter-attack. He needs to dodge or parry. Then he gains the initiative and can hit. We try to work on the defense aspect because we saw a lot people rushing at each other and try to touch without any techniques.
Right.
Our system is not perfect at this time, but we work on it. we think that with more better level of fighting, we can do better things, more visuals.
Yes.
I think.
And when we were working with it yesterday, that's one thing that I noticed. It did allow you to do things that you wouldn't necessarily be able to do or would want to do, which does make it, very, spectator friendly. Now the other thing is, and people may complain about, I complain about this all the time because I didn't like the right of way rule conceptually because of the way that I was trained and everything. But after using something, approximating in that vein, it definitely brings a distinctly different vibe, a totally different outlook to what you have to do within that game to do that. So I haven't used it quite that much yet, so I can't make a huge judgment one way or the other. But I'll say this, that it was much more interesting and much more challenging than I thought it was going to be in a good way. To think about that, to think about, okay, I have to prepare an attack, which, and then I have to make sure that I haven't started my attack at the same time the other person has started, all of this kind of stuff. So it brings a totally kind of different awareness, a different interplay, which I found very, very interesting. Now, we didn't have that many people, around, so we didn't have a huge variety of different types of situation. We still did get a couple of double hits where we have to be like, what do you do? Those usually happened like third exchange in there. So it's like, he comes over here 1, 2, and then it gets all blah, but it was funny because, and I'll be posting some video about it too, and I'll do a whole video on it. We actually had some really kind of interesting little exchanges there. So I think there is value to it, in some, in some senses, especially as a competitive rule set, because it's fun. It makes it, kind of fun. Being able to do something really fancy with your lightsaber, to start your attack is, it's honestly kind of fun,
And for us, we try to keep some aspect of the forms with the thigh, the most powerful strike. If the first strike if it is well armed with 200 on your hilt, you gain the maximum points, 5 points.
Yeah, I wasn't able to. The whole scoring system was a little bit much for me to handle for yesterday. But the concept of the right of way was really what was foreign, to me, and that. So yeah, so it's so it's interesting. I imagine me and Anthony are far more into a kind of a HEMA style. Kind of thing.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. So it's a different thing, which I have to say I enjoy.
It's funny because I think we're somewhere reaching a middle point at this level, because ever since I've been working with you guys and getting more involved in this community, I've moved farther and farther. I've sort of become frustrated on my own with right of way. So I'm considering myself more of an FAist now. I actually started fencing FA, found that I loved it because it's just so simple in terms of, there's you can hit anywhere, there's no right away. It's literally just, I'm trying to hit that guy without being hit myself.
Right.
So it's kind of a nice thing, and it's definitely more my preference now that even though I spent 12, however many years as a foilist, it's definitely something I'm getting more into. Even though, like you said, the right of way makes for a very unique, and it has its place there as a competitive element.
Right. I'm not going to
lightsabers-
say that. Right. I'm not going to say that that fighting in those matches with right of way felt like a real fight.
Yeah, exactly.
You know,
there's definitely
it certainly it certainly makes you think fast.
Yeah.
That I will say, I've found many times where I was like, I can't do that. Damn, and then I was hit.
Yeah, it's kind of like, because you're working within a system, or you're also trying to sword fight with someone while you're trying to make sure. So it's kind of double. You want to make sure you perform techniques well, but also that you perform them within the context of the rules. So okay, I want to make sure I've started first. I've done this, or I've parried properly and stuff like that.
Right.
Which is a little bit different. And I think lightsabers are almost harder than even regular weapon sparring as far as trying to establish a rule set, just because it's so. The element that makes them so bizarre is the fact that it's so easy to cut. We have situations where Ed and I'll spar, and one of us will hit the other, and one of us will be grazed, and we say, well, did you cut me? Did you sever my arm? It's just the fact that the lightsaber is such a volatile weapon that is just so easy to. I mean, you could just, if it accidentally gets caught somewhere, okay, did you just lose an arm, a head? It kind of makes it even more complicated. Whereas, with the steel weapon, okay, if you don't have force behind it, you may get a cut, but it may not just, completely cut you in half. It makes it a little bit weird to try to establish a rule set.
Yeah. I mean, I found that it's helped my regular stuff, because it's a no slop game.
Yeah.
And when people were talking about the vents on the Kylo, saying, oh, you shouldn't have any problem missing those. It's like, look, man, it's hard enough not touching that blade when you have a single saber, when you're coming from real steel. You're constantly wanting to grab that blade. You can't do it.
It makes it that much more satisfying when you get a good, decisive,
right,
attack where, okay, you didn't hit me. It makes that like that perfect moment.
Yeah, exactly.
If I may add, that's a very important part of our training. Ben can attest to that. When we duel, we try to hit and not get hit. Of course, double hits happen, but the main thing is, if you hit them and they hit you, well, how do you feel about that? Are you happy with that? But if you hit them and they swung and missed you, or you hit them and they swung and you defended, how do you feel about that? So I think it's a really fun game to try not to get hit, even if you hit first, and of course, and in line with also an important aspect of it too. If you just got grazed across the forearm or something, well, how deep do you think it was, kind of thing. So I'm really in line with what you guys are talking about. It's really good stuff.
Yeah. It's interesting when you think about that too. And again, we make a distinction between double hits happening in sparring. If double hits happen in sparring, you should only be worried about what you didn't do, right? It's like, okay, why did I get hit? You don't worry about, I got my hit in. Well, no, you didn't really. He didn't defend. He just hit you. And, so when you're practicing, if you get a double hit, you just focus on yourself, right? The double hits become a problem when you start trying to keep score and do like a game, like a competition thing, because now you've got a judgment that has to be made. Like, yeah. Now, up to now, we just, no double hit. And I know in some tournaments they do, like like neither party will, like both parties get punished for double hits.
Yeah, in FA actually, because it's literally well, the electric system, when the button's depressed, it lights up and it sets off, it adds a point to your side. So the rule is that if there's a double touch, both people get a touch, which actually is kind of a negative thing. It's basically considered a somewhat negative in FA because it essentially, if you're down 3-2, let's say, a double touch, now you're down 4-3. It just puts you closer to being, it pushes the bout closer to the end of it, which is like, kind of gives you less room for error. So it's actually a little bit the opposite, but at the same time, it's in a way it's almost a punishment because you're depending on what position you're in. If you're
no, and it does make sense because in if you want to talk about in when we're talking about realism or anything like that, that would be analogous to both people being wounded. You're that much closer to being to having the fight end, right? But it's a problem that is rife out there because we go from sparring where we're just trying to learn, and then we go into competition where we're trying to win and all of that kind of thing. So, and since we can't actually cut each other's heads off, run each other through, or murder each other in the ring, we don't really have the same stamp of approval that a barehanded fighter can get by knocking somebody out. We can't really do that. We have to pretend that we did that, and so there we go. So yeah, so on the competition front, we're going to have more stuff coming out like that. You're going to see different rule sets to do different things. To do different things. I know there's a lot of competitions out there now, like the Saber Legion and all these things that do these dueling competitions. Their rule sets are out there. I know Ludo Sports is out there. I don't know who else has a rule set that's out there. I've never been able to figure out Ludo Sports, so anybody that understands it, please comment or post a video or something like that, because I'd like to. I would like to know what is going on in those matches. Yes. So that's one thing. I don't know what else. Oh yes, we should talk about Reverend Armory, Nero. So that is your project that is coming out, which is going to have a lot of impact on Tpla and certain things. So why don't you bring us up to date on that?
So we're basically, if you haven't really followed us or kind of caught when me throwing stuff around the Saber community, my friend and I, the backstory is that he wanted to build lightsabers, and kind of mentioned it to me. It was my assistant coach when I was coaching at Lafayette last season. She brought her boyfriend to a meet, and he mentioned, "Oh, I'd love to build some lightsabers with you." And I was kind of like, "Oh yeah, you've come to the right place. I think I can pull that off." So we got some PVC and all kinds of different supplies together. And we built these lightsabers, which turned out really great. I was really pleased with them. They're curved hilts, wrapped with leather, and have some really cool paint jobs on them and stuff, some accent straps. So anyway, he actually was so pleased with how they came out. He made me a Revan mask, which you might have seen in some of the photos from Celebration when I was hopping around the convention floor with Anonymous, and it's great. It's fantastic work, and it made me realize that he has some incredible artistic skills. And I've been getting into some creative elements myself, so I suggested that we start doing a few different things as a sort of company, as a collaboration. So basically, the rundown is that currently we're focusing on our initial PVC custom lightsabers. The idea is that it's PVC is a very low cost, very customizable medium, as opposed to metal, which obviously, it's much more difficult to try to make full customs out of. So it kind of is a nice challenge for us, and also allows us to put a low-cost option out there for the Saber community, for people who maybe don't want the full. I have stuff like the Solos Hold Luke V2, which is just spectacular. But when all is said and done, not everyone wants to go that distance for as far as financially and all that kind of stuff. So we're looking to make some familiar designs and stuff like that. The Kanan's lightsaber from Rebels is one that we've been doing now. I'm making a line of Ram Kodas that are in the works, and the other big thing we're working on that's gotten a lot of attention is the Ahsoka curved hilts from Rebels, which there's 2 really good options out right now. The 3 actually, if you I know Darth Alice does an incredible version, and I think KR Sabers has the empty, and Vader's Vault has a fully installed hilt. But we were going to try to get a low-cost option out there, just out of PVC, just for people who may want something in that price range. And we're looking at trying to keep it around $80 a piece for a fully installed saber hilt. But we're looking to do some custom work. We're looking to do a lot more of this kind of stuff too. Foam helmets, masks, cosplay armor. We really enjoy making that kind of stuff and customizing it and painting it. And what Darth Anonymous was referring to is I've been talking to him about possibly making some functional armor that's also customizable and can be made to look like Star Wars themed for TPLA, for sparring applications. So layers of foam with other materials, obviously fully tested and verified before we start getting it to people. But I'll probably be sending him a set to just try out, test out. We'll get the kinks worked out.
Send a set to Syracuse. We'll beat it up.
Oh yeah.
Absolutely.
I'll make a few.
Yeah, I would love to see Obi-Wan Kenobi's greaves from the Clone Wars, but actually usable.
Yeah, and it's again like the nice thing about foam, which is another reason we use that like the PVC, very low cost, very customizable. It's very easy to manipulate and that kind of thing. So it gives us so much variety for so little kind of input cost that we don't have to scale our prices to the point where they're especially with armor, you get a set of armor that's looks like whatever is out there for Revan or stormtroopers or whatever. It's costly because the materials used and the work that goes into it and all that kind of stuff. So this would be something that would be relatively low cost, that you could feel like you could wear in a sparring application. I know I wouldn't feel comfortable spending $500 on a suit of armor than running into beat it up. So that's the idea there. To my thought, that makes the most sense, is offering things that you won't feel nervous about using, and will protect you. So we'll make sure that's what we're doing. So
that sounds so exciting. It really does. I would love some like full, Old Republic Jedi armor.
Yeah.
To duel in, and
exactly.
Because we're talking about doing live light dueling at these events, where we're not dueling to win, we're dueling just to have fun and to experiment. And it would be cool to have cosplay looking armor that actually protects us, to keep the immersion on stage. I'm really excited about this. I want
that's the goal.
Put me down for some armor.
All right.
Oh yeah, no, we're gonna. That's the thing. And one of the big goals, and why I've tried to gather, all the people that are together here, and not here, they're still within TPLA, is we now have a really good diverse group of people. So we're going to be able to test these things from every angle.
Yeah.
We'll send Anthony, we'll send Francois and Diedrich theirs, and you know, we'll you know, we've got people that we can test this stuff. And the other thing too is, and we've had a couple of saber companies, you know, throw us a saber here or there. If you've got stuff that you want tested on film at the levels that we test these things, you know, just shoot us an email. We're perfectly happy to do any of this stuff for anybody. You know, any companies that want to get their product kind of tested out there. Now we don't take any money or anything like that, so this is all on the level. It's just, would we use this product? Is this product up to our level, you know, of use? Then yeah, sure.
Yeah, we're excited to try out new gear, new sabers. I mean, as soon as something new shows up at one of our gatherings, you know, of course, everybody flocks around, and then one of the thoughts are, okay, how can we spar with that? Would it stand sparring? Is it good for spinning? Is it good for this? So, yeah, I encourage, you know, anybody who, you know, maybe wants to see if their sabers can hold up to, you know, to sparring, give us a call. I mean, we have such a diverse group of people here.
Yeah.
You know, in TPLA, that, I mean, you're going to get points of view just from the different backgrounds. So I think it's exciting. Really do.
Yeah. So that is probably a good place to kind of wrap things up, because that's kind of what we've got in store here for the summer. As far as videos go, like I said, I'm probably going to do another sword lab at least once. I'm trying to get Ben and Anthony here to help me with one as well on the butterfly swords and all that kind of thing. We'll also, I mean, I have more tutorial stuff coming out, and there's going to be some announcements here later on in the summer about different things that, new things that we're going to be bringing out that everybody out there in Saberland can enjoy. Not just if you want to be, with us in some sort of official capacity, but if you're just, you're just an enthusiast, you just want something to do and not be so exactly serious. So there'll be some announcements coming up this summer about that, and some more content coming out. So hopefully everybody will stay tuned in. Please, I know the YouTubers out there are all putting this out there. Make sure that you're subscribed to the channel and that you're getting the announcements when we post and all that, so that because I know YouTube has been changing their algorithms and things like that. So just a little shout out to any of our normal followers who may wonder if we've fallen off the planet. We have not. We're still here, and we're working behind the scenes. Okay, so we will end that for today. For the return show of TPLA Live. We will be back in 2 weeks. Next Sunday, 3 p.m. Eastern Time, U.S. I think, what is that, -4 UTC, something like that, I believe, in the summer. But so check your local time and all of that. Otherwise, it will be on the channel, of course, for your viewing pleasure at a later date. So please join us for our next episode in 2 weeks. Until then, thank you, panel, for coming out and sharing all of your experiences and what's been going on with you. And for all you, thank you for tuning in. We will see you later. Have a great day. Happy sabering.